Thank you guys for joining us. We're the Metis analytics team, part of the OSINT and reconnaissance conflict team. Every week we look throughout the world and create basically a snapshot of different conflicts happening throughout the region. We utilize the Metis OS platform to be able to ingest this information and then also visualize it and create reports. Um, our clients are able to do that as well. So we really are really focused on enabling analysts to be able to help the people that they serve understand what's happening throughout the world, whether they need to protect their assets or people. They could be a multinational company, whatever they're doing, they need to understand, especially right now in this world today, what is what's happening. What's happening geopolitically. Things are constantly changing throughout many different regions of the world, and it's our job to be able to help shed a light on that, and be able to give you a full global situational awareness. So, without further ado, want to introduce you to Luca Newton. He is in charge of really helping gather a lot of our open source intelligence about the conflicts that are happening throughout the world, and being able to do analysis on that, create predictions. Yeah, so we're just going to just be talking about kind of just overall, like how some of the last few months have been through different conflicts, but then even just throughout this past month. Um, so, Luca, what are we starting off with?
Um, just to get things going from kind of most recent for this month, I was thinking of starting with South America
Okay.
at the beginning of November, to which the first event that we have recorded down for South America is an incident on the 2nd of November where a terrorist group from Venezuela has threatened to conduct multiple activities in Peru because of the current Peruvian government and their plan to deport Venezuelans due to a long-standing political discord, I guess you can call it,
Mhm.
disorder between the two groups in Peru. And this group is known as the Los Gallegos, and
Okay.
they have threatened activities in the past. This case here on the 2nd of November, they had explicitly stated they would start on the 10th of November if Peru went through with their plan to deport Venezuelans. Since we are recording this well after the 10th, nothing has come up so far, but that does not mean that they are not going to conduct any activities in the near future. So, as always, we do recommend people keep a watchful eye in case anything similar or anything suspicious can come up from either them or even any other groups that we don't know about in the region. Following from that, on the 8th of November in Brazil, the Brazilian federal police, alongside the Israeli Mossad, were able to arrest two Hezbollah sympathizers. And if I'm not mistaken, they even found a third rather recently now, I think earlier this week or last week. And they were reportedly planning multiple attacks throughout the entire country on multiple Jewish buildings. Luckily, that was prevented as they are now arrested.
Okay.
As such, with that kind of story, we do recommend people keep again, watchful eye for anything suspicious, any kind of terrorist threat. We cannot say for certain if they will ever happen for sure, but always being aware of things that may be happening that can be suspicious, especially in important places like airports or because of recent political tensions, any kind of Jewish building like synagogues is important to maintain at least some kind of additional awareness than
Yeah.
the normal amount at this point.
Yeah.
Should we now then move on to the next region?
Yeah. Let's. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Let's keep going.
All right. In the next area, we will move to Western Europe, where the first incident written down for this month is on the 4th of November, where an armed man ended up taking a 4-year-old child as a hostage at the Hamburg airport in Germany. It is believed at this time, I should say it's believed at this time, we know for a fact now that the kidnapper was in fact the father of the child who took her in a heated, I think it was a divorce dispute specifically,
Hmm.
and he wanted to essentially take the child with him back to Turkey after the custody dispute. And what ended up happening is a 18, if I'm not mistaken, an 18-hour hostage situation, which luckily ended with the man surrendering without any further resistance to the authorities. I
Okay.
think a firearm was fired once or twice, but didn't hit anyone and were probably more warning shots than anything else.
Mm.
So luckily, no one was injured here, and all responsible parties were able to resolve the issue without any major issues happening from it.
Okay.
And likewise, afterwards in Western Europe, still on the 9th of November in Spain specifically, a Spanish politician, Alejo Vidal Quadras, was attacked and someone tried to assassinate him. And at this time, we do not know for sure who is behind this attack. Um, Vidal Quadras himself believes that it could be an Iranian sponsored terrorist attack, assassination attempt, essentially, because of his policies against Iran. But no one has been arrested yet, and no motive has been uncovered because of it.
Okay.
And if I forgot to say this, this was on the 9th of November specifically.
Okay. Gotcha.
From there, our next region of discussion is directly south in Western Africa, where we will start off on the 4th of November, where an unknown armed group of individuals in Guinea attacked the Conakry city center prison and what ended up being a successful attempt to break out the former president Musa Dadis Camara and his closest associates. They have reportedly been in prison since at least September of 2022 after the coup took place in the country and, well, took over the country, essentially.
Mhm.
We, at this time, do not know who this group is specifically. There's been assumptions that it could be some kind of private militia that was originally funded by the former
Mm.
president, but nothing concrete has come out, and the whereabouts of the president himself are currently unknown. So
Okay.
he might still be in country, he might be out of country. We just sadly do not know for certain.
Mm. Interesting. Um,
Additionally, in Western Africa, on the 14th of November, we got reports that the Malian army and their PMC Wagner mercenaries were able to recapture a, to them, it's a fairly important town. It is very small in comparison to other cities in Mali, but the town of Kidal, which is in northern Mali, was recaptured by Malian forces against the Tuareg rebels in the area. It was for the longest time now, I think at least 4 or 5 months now, has been considered a major stronghold for the rebels in the region. So to them, this is a major step forward in recapturing the rest of northern Mali, which
okay.
is primarily controlled by Tuareg rebels, but there are a few other factions in there as well.
Okay.
From this point, we can now move on to Central Africa, where on the 7th of November, the Democratic Republic of Congo, their army and particular UN peacekeepers launched an operation to strengthen security around the key city of Goma in the North Kivu province, which has been under threat from the Rwandan M23 rebels since at least early 2023. And if I'm not mistaken, in the past, we've even reported that those same rebel groups did attack the city itself at several points earlier in the year.
Okay.
It is believed at this time that they have kind of stayed back for at least a month or two now. And this most recent move from the DRC and the UN is essentially to try and protect their interest in the region and to hopefully stop any kind of advance from rebel forces. As such, since that is a key location with a lot of civilians, it is important to try and maintain at least some kind of sense of security in the region, either know where to go in case of an attack or just kind of be prepared to fight back if necessary. I'm not actually too sure about the laws in the region for that, but do know that it could become a precarious situation should the M23 rebels end up attacking.
Mm.
Now, from here, we move on to Western Asia, which is this story ended up not really coming up after the first few reports of it, but it is probably worth a mention here that on the 8th of November, security forces in Abkhazia began their search for a unknown group of at least 7 armed men, and I think they even had a helicopter with them at the time near the city of Azanta, or in the mountainous regions. I think it's north of Azanta itself. Sadly, there has been almost no additional news since the first report of it, so we cannot say for certain who was behind this, what their reasons are, or really anything else here. The region is known for instability in the past, and because of the tensions between Georgia and Abkhazia, and particularly Russia in the region, this could be important in the near future, but for now, we have not seen anything else. Now, from this point on, we get to the probably the meat of all the news that everyone has now seen over the last, how long has it been now? About almost 2 months now
Yep,
with
yep.
the Israel-Gaza war. Now, this has been probably one of the more violent conflicts we have seen recently. And there's just a lot to go through. Do you have anything that you want to add particularly here before we start?
Yeah, maybe just really like what, who is Hamas? Like, what really is their plight, their argument, and what is going on actually?
Well, generally, as a background for what is going on here, Hamas has existed for several decades now. They are a paramilitary, more or less turned terrorist group that, in essence, they want the liberation of Palestine, what used to be Palestine, from Israel, which to them means either the complete restoration of the country from pre 1948 borders, or in some arguments, at the very least, the freedom for Gaza and the West Bank. But to them, since they are
Mhm.
primarily based in the Gaza Strip, they more or less want more autonomy in the region and more freedom there. Of course, since they are a well known terrorist group now, their methods of doing this are far from good by any stretch of
Yeah,
the imagination. And their primary form of attack, at least in the past, used to be just rocket attacks into Israel, which Israel responded with by using the Iron Dome to defend themselves, which has been at least somewhat successful even in this case. But most recently, starting on the 7th of October, they launched a much larger attack that Israel and frankly most of the world were surprised by, because no one expected Hamas to be able to amass those forces and launch any kind of attack that
yeah.
would successfully penetrate into Israeli lines. From there, we did see a fairly hefty massacre on the 7th of October, which in some cases did continue throughout that week of the 7th,
Yeah.
mostly because they kept on launching rockets afterwards. Luckily, Israeli forces did eventually manage to contain them back into the Gaza Strip. I don't remember the exact date that they did so, but I think before October 20th, they managed to get them all at least corralled back into the Gaza Strip. And
Mhm.
since then, we have seen a little bit of hesitation from Israel to launch in attacks into the Gaza Strip itself, but at least as of this month, they have successfully done so in several areas, with the most recent developments being the capture of both Al Shifa and Al Rantisi hospitals in, I think it is the southern or southwestern edge of Gaza City itself.
Yes. Yeah, and I know that they start in the north, they're working their way south. I believe they just dropped pamphlets to even some towns in the south as well, for them to evacuate and head further south. Um, they they've also have done a successful operation in some of the hospitals where they believed believed that Hamas has been active in one of their biggest headquarters, and I believe Al Shiza hospital. If
Yes,
I'm saying that correctly.
the Al Shifa Hospital, which has
Shifa.
been the major center of controversy now for a while, as it is believed to be one of the central command nodes for Hamas in that side of the Gaza City.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, so we're definitely going to be keeping an eye on that. And we actually are supporting teams on the ground right now, getting Americans out. So yeah, so
And to that as well, just because this is probably the most intense region right now in the world, other than the Russian-Ukrainian war, which we can probably get to at the end of these regional stories here.
mhm,
Um, we do recommend that people go through our full reports on this, for they are filled with far more detail than what we would be able to put in a webinar, especially since this is a constantly changing situation that, frankly, I don't think anyone knows for sure how it's going to end at this point. The newest reports, though, that we can give you from this is that Israeli forces have managed now to surround both the Al Ali Baptist Hospital and the Indonesian hospital in Gaza City.
mhm,
And we are expecting them to probably storm both of these within either the coming hours or coming days throughout this week.
yeah,
And as always, we are hoping for good news on the ground from that, either finding hostages or at the very least eliminating what could be yet another Hamas command node.
yeah. And then also just some more on the propaganda side. We did do a analysis on propaganda and social media being generated by Hamas. Things have gone really viral on Facebook and TikTok being the biggest engine um, of pro Hamas content. Yeah, so definitely check that out. I believe we have it on LinkedIn as well. So stay tuned.
All right. Last
Um,
little bit for that as well that I want to add, since we mostly just focus here on the south. It should also be noted that while it's at a lower intensity in the northern half of Israel, Hezbollah still continues to be active and launching daily strikes on Israeli positions in northern Israel. So that's also an area to look out for. So if you want to observe what is going on here, both northern Israel and the Gaza Strip itself are probably your two heaviest concentrated areas for this war.
cool, cool. Well, yeah, how about we call it wraps there and appreciate it, Luca.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, and yeah, we'll continue to do our weekly OSINT conflict reports. And definitely, you can, if you're an analyst and you follow world events, please definitely go to our website, metisos.co. You can sign up for a free trial to be able to utilize our platform for your own missions and analysis. So thank you so much for watching. And thank